How's it going, everyone? So today I managed to cobble up some gameplay for the upcoming LEGO Star Wars Battles mobile game. Which, yeah, I know what you're thinking, the game isn't out until next year, so how did I get this gameplay footage? Surprisingly, the game is actually out right now, but in the beta phase in select countries. So fortunately, thanks to that, we can get our real first look at the game. I myself managed to get an hour and a half into it, and I gotta say, it's very different than Force Arena. In battles, you don't control your hero or any unit really. You place them on the battlefield and watch them duke it out. The only difference with heroes is that you can activate their one special ability like a force push for Luke or force choke for Vader. But then you have to wait a little while afterwards for that ability to recharge. However, there are some similarities to Force Arena, such as unit types. These being like TIE bombers and Y-wings who only come in and bomb a specific zone that you want them to bomb, but they don't actually fight or anything like that. Meanwhile, big heavy vehicle units like AT-ATs will only attack buildings and ignore everything else, just like AT-STs in Force Arena. And then you have units like Porgs and Ewoks who don't have a blaster, and then they're helpless against hovering units like probe droids. So yeah, the idea is to be very strategic with your unit choices and placements in order to get the edge against your opponent. One interesting thing about battles that you quickly notice is that unlike Force Arena, you can actually build your own towers here and even build them on your opponent's side too. The more towers you build, the more territory you gain, and with that territory, you can then spawn units closer to your opponent's base. And if your towers do get destroyed, you're actually able to rebuild them just as long as your units are near it. Now, when you boot up the game, you'll be made to play a bunch of tutorial missions to get used to the game, which is to be expected. The game menu itself is decent, but some parts are closed off because the game is still itself in a beta phase. However, you're still able to visit the in-game store to make purchases with real-world currency, which I'm not sure why anyone would want to do so in a beta version, but there you go. You can also upgrade your cards and make separate decks for both the light and dark side, just like in Force Arena, Clash Royale, or any other game, so nothing really special in that area. But what I did find funny is that the game didn't allow me to actually pick my own name, as instead it forces you to run a name generator, which is weird and limiting. I'm assuming this is only for the beta version and not in the actual game, as there we'll be able to pick our own names. As for matchmaking, I did play quite a bit of games, but majority of them were as the dark side. And that's the kicker here, because in battles you can't pick what faction you want to play with. It's random each time you search for a game, which can obviously be annoying if you want to place the light side but keep getting stuck with the dark side. I did eventually get one game as the light side against one experienced dark side player, and that game played out pretty interesting, as you'll later see. And as for the fun factor in battles, I did have minimal fun here, but honestly it does end up getting tedious pretty quickly. It might be because everyone still has relatively balanced decks, but every game I've played thus far, I've never been able to actually destroy my opponent's base, and only really won by having more towers than my opponent at the end of the timer. Well, actually, that's not true. I did manage to destroy my opponent's base in one game, but in a rather unconventional way. And yeah, it's possible the game could get better down the line, but so far as of right now, it does feel rather stale and limiting. Of course, I can see some people having a lot of fun right now with it, but for all those folks who saw this game as their Force Arena replacement, then all I have to say is look elsewhere. With that said, I'll need to spend a little bit more time in battles before giving a final opinion, like actually unlocking more cards and heroes, for example. But for now, I quickly wanted to give my first initial thoughts and impressions on the game, as I know people have a lot of questions about it. But that'll do it for me. Enjoy the rest of the gameplay footage.